Okay guys, with the launch of this video, I am still trotting around the halls of Adepticon, having a great time I'm sure, but I did pre-make a bunch of videos you guys would not miss out, and we are still delving into the Blood and Zeal box set for Kill Team. We did a review video of it last Saturday, and obviously I was at Adepticon all week, so I didn't get a lot of time to make more and more content for it, but I'm going to give you the Confessor today, so the boss of the good guys, in today's video, and next week we will work through some of the other units in there, so you'll be able to paint the box set for yourself. So hopefully you're excited for it, and yeah, let's dive in. And this is, of course, the new Confessor miniature you get with the Blood and Zeal set. Obviously, this is the leader of the Ministorum set of guys. He is a beautiful model, a kind of layered robes, reading from some form of holy book and wielding quite an impressive looking mace. And obviously he leads his warband with nothing but faith and zeal into combat, and he is no slouch at fighting, and he is definitely not afraid of anything on the battlefield. His faith will keep him safe. So when it came to deciding on a color scheme for these particular miniatures, obviously when I did the review video I talked a lot about what I should do, because I was quite confused. If you look at the warband as a whole, there's like 4, 5 or 6 even color schemes across the entire warband. I cannot do 5 or 6 color schemes in video form for each of these. The time does not allow it. So after taking some consideration from the awesome comment section, I decided I've chosen a universal scheme that I'm going to do across the entire warband, so they will all look like they are a singular fighting force. But also I wanted to keep that kind of religious zeal aspect to it. So I decided to go for crimson and black robes. Not red, crimson. I'm not going to go for the like bright Blood Angels red style model. It's going to be quite subdued. So we're going to start with obviously the corn red, or the Flesh Tears red contrast, and then Black Templar across some of the robes, inner robes. We're going to go for Agros Dunes for that awesome big pelt that runs around the top of his shoulders and down around the front. Contrast over like fur is just not fair. It's so good. Anyone who stands there and, you know, base coats in fur with a normal brush, I don't know why you're doing that to yourself. Guilliman flesh, of course, for any of the skins showing on these models, face, hands, knees, whatever, just gets a simple base coat of a Guilliman flesh contrast. From here, we're going to start adding the metallics. So Lead Belcher is the base paint of choice for the silver parts. And there isn't actually that much silver on him. Obviously, he's a member of the Ministorum, a very wealthy organization side of the Imperium. So usually a lot of kind of pomp and ostentatiousness with them. So lots of gold. But he does have a singular piece of armor coming down kind of around his neck and down over his chest, just a small bit. It's probably mostly for decoration as opposed to being armor. But that bit goes silver. And that's pretty much it. Every other metallic part of it is going to be gold. No, I tell a lie. There's a silver kind of frame around his nice kind of hat, his nice religious hat. And then every other part of the metallics go into a nice gold base coat. Retributor armor is, of course, my gold of choice. It is a stellar gold paint. Anyone who doesn't have it, you're crazy. Go out and buy a pot right now. You will not regret it. Okay, and with all of the gold in place, that's pretty much all the base coats on the model. So it's now time for a very quick shade. For this, we're going to go for Null and Oil, and we're going to apply this shade all over the entire miniature. While the shade is drying, we are also going to add a little bit of brown texture. I'm using Dark Earth from AK Interactive for the base of the miniature. Get it dry brushed up and the rim done black. And then when that's all ready to rock and roll over time, it's ready to start layering on this miniature. So like I talked about at the beginning, we're not going red, we're going crimson. So what I'm talking about here is we went from Flesh Tears red, we're going to go into Corn red, and then into Wazdaka red. Normally with the reds, I would go for Blood Angels red contrast, and then it could be Fiston, Evil Sons, Wild Rider, into a much brighter, much more vibrant color scheme, which is not what we're trying to achieve here. We want something that's a little bit more subdued and a little bit more pious. I also do apologize if you can hear a slight banging in the background of this video. There is some heavy construction work going on across the road. It's going to be going on for quite some time, but at this stage, there's just loud hammering all the time. And I cannot wait to work around it, unfortunately, so hopefully you don't hear it too bad. Here is the Wazdaka red step. Like I said, I'm going in much more carefully and much more controlled and adding this as the final highlight to the red sections of these robes. which is not actually entirely true. I do one extra tiny little step later on, which I will explain, but it was more of a off the cuff. I decided to do it while I was doing something else, and I think it worked out well and looked great. From here, we're going to go into Corvus Black and then into Mechanics Standard Grey to do some very quick highlights on the black portions of the model. Once again, there's that robe thingy that wraps down the front of, I don't know what it's called. I know priests wear it a lot when they're kind of giving sermons. If you know what it's called, please do let me know. Obviously that is going to go black. The inner part of his cape is going to go black. The handle of his mace is black, and then some pipe work and other bits and pieces. Like I said, followed up by Mechanics Standard Grey. Same idea, just less again. Final highlight, kind of edges and kind of some of the more flatter areas done, just to make it pop a little bit more than it was already doing. Here is that extra step I was talking about. I got a bone color and I dry brushed it across the fur. I got a controlled dry brush, don't hit anything else. But then I decided to add a very light bone dry brush across all of the red as well, mostly just aiming at the edges and catching the tops of the folds. I mean, it's very minuscule, but it does capture the sharp edges and add just that extra little bit of detail to the cloak. And then, of course, our normal traditional flesh tone, so Cadian flesh tone. Then I add a little bit of Berserker Bloodshade over the top of that. And then into Kislev flesh for the final highlight. Gave us a really nice skin tone across the model. One that you can easily replicate across all the other miniatures inside of this warband. Lead Belcher was brought back in for a quick highlight on the silver parts. And like I said at the beginning, there's not that many silver parts, but we'll tidy them up anyway. Obviously, the null oil darken them down, left a nice shade in the recesses. And this is just to kind of bring in those flat, higher areas you want to be highlighted back to silver. A little bit of Liberator Gold is used to highlight all of the gold sections of the model. Beautiful Aquillas, obviously the mace head, all the inquisitorial symbols, any other parts like that across the model that you can find, you're going to get highlighted in as well. I love the concept that some of these parts are, of course, quite old, like they are relics. Mainly his mace, it's probably been passed from Confessor to Confessor. So I decided to add a little touch of Nilak Oxide on his mace head. No other part, his armor, the little badges in his mask, they could all be brand new, all part of his uniform. But I'd say that mace is very, very old. So I think it deserves a little bit more reverence. So a little bit of oxidization just to make it stand out a little bit more, I think is a good call. And with that, we have our finished Confessor miniature ready to be deployed into a game of Kill Team with the rest of his warband and fight those menacing new Cornate beasts. A couple of still images to give you guys an example of what this guy will look like on the tabletop. Please do let me know what you want to see next out of that box set, and I'd be more than happy to oblige.